Hello everyone, you're welcome back to Damsey Fashion. In today's tutorial video, we are going to be showing you different cutting methods. As you can see them on the board, we have different types of cutting. We have the freehand cutting, we have the pattern drafting, then we have the draping method. The freehand cutting has to do with you cutting directly on your fabric with the use of scissors, your tape measurement and other things. While the pattern drafting has to do with a method of cutting with the use of paper before transferring into your fabric. Then the last one, which is the draping method, has to do with draping directly on the mannequin or on a body form to bring out the shape that you want. I hope I'm not too fast. Stay tuned with me. But in this video, we are majoring into pattern drafting because I want to be putting us through pattern drafting in our channel. So I don't want it to be confused in any type. These are the types of pattern drafting that we have. We have the commercial pattern and we have the drafted pattern. You'll be telling me what is commercial pattern. Maybe you've never heard of it. Commercial pattern are those patterns that they use in big factories, garment industry. They are used for mass production. Mass production. Mass production. Do you see that? Mass production. Mass production means large quantity, while the drafted pattern is used by individual or a small firm. You use it in drafting, probably maybe your client just one, you are drafting a bodies or whichever way you want to draft. That is drafted pattern. So I hope you have understood what I mean by commercial pattern and drafted pattern. Uses of pattern drafting. Pattern drafting help us to ease stress. Number one, it ease stress. I hope you are writing that. Number two, it helps us in managing our fabric. When you have pattern already, you have to know you manage it. So even if you are using, some are using 3 years, you can use 2.5 years or so. And it also helps us in correcting whatever you want to make. If you are cutting directly on your fabric and you are a beginner, it's possible for you to make some mistakes. But if you are using your pattern after cutting your paper, if you make any mistakes, you can start all over again. And when you are sure of it, you transfer into your fabric. I hope you have understood that. So let us move into the next part by me showing you types of tools we use in pattern drafting and symbols that we use in pattern, that when you see those symbols on the paper, you are going to identify them. So these are the pattern drafting tools that I've listed here with their uses. We said the tape measure is used for measuring on tape, and then others. I listed 11, about 12 here to 13. So I listed 13 here. Then I'll be showing you those things. Now the first one is the tape measure. Some call it tape rule, but the good one is tape measure. This is a tape measure from 1 to, this one is 1 to 120. 1 to 120. We use this one especially for longer fabric, longer material. Then this one is 1 to 60. 1 to 60. This is the mostly used. 1 to 60 is mostly used by pattern drafter. Then we have the meter rule. The meter rule, some call it the ruler. This is a meter rule. This is a meter rule, and this is also a meter rule. This is also a meter rule. So the next one, we have the French curve. Is used for shaping curved areas. Some call it curve ruler. So this is a French curve. This is a master curve. This is a master ruler. It has a straight and a curve here. This is also a curve. We have different curves. We have different curve rulers. We have different French curves. This is also another kind of curve here. As you can see, this is also another kind. All these things serves as different purposes that you can use them for. And this is a triangular ruler. Can you see that? Also, we have pencil for outlining your pattern on paper. This is a pencil. We all know what pencil is, so we have to show you that. We have the paper scissors. You say, what is paper scissors? For cutting paper. This is a paper scissors. This smaller one. This smaller one. This one is a fabric scissors. This bigger one. Then this smaller one is a paper scissors. As you can see that. Then we have the eraser. It's advisable to buy eraser, a separate one. But I have eraser here on my pencil. I have eraser here. We have the brown paper, also pattern. That's the pattern paper for pattern. For doing your pattern, this is a brown paper. Then you can also use the regular white pattern paper that we all use. We have the tracing wheel. Tracing wheel. We have the tracing wheel. This is a tracing wheel. Do you see that? It's used for tracing out pattern from one paper to another. Can you see that? To trace out pattern from one paper to another when you trace. When we continue videos, you are going to see how we use tracing wheel. Then we have the tacking pin. This pin is used for holding paper on the table. Once you press it together on the table, it will hold it. If I want to hold this paper on the table now, I will use this to hold it together. That is the work of the tacking pin. Then we have the paper tape. We have the paper tape. Paper tape. This is the paper tape. As you can see, this is used to join papers or closing and opening. To close and opening, we have the office pin. We all know office pin. Office pin is used to hold paper and fabric together after cutting. When you are transferring into your fabric, you have to hold it firm so that you won't shift patterns up and down. Then we have the seam ripper. When you make a mistake in your sewing, you want to lose. It is used to lose seam. As you can see that, this is the seam ripper. This is it. It is used to lose seam. Then we have the marker. The marker. This is a marker. This is a marker. We use marker to highlight markings for clarity's sake, to highlight them. If you are patterning, notice when you are patterning, what you are using is pencil. We only use marker as illustration so that it will be for clarity. That's why I wrote clarity here. So as a beginner or pattern drafter, we don't use marker to draft. We use pencil to draft. Do you understand that? So I'll be moving now to marking symbols. These are marking symbols. These are marking symbol, pattern making symbol. We have the starting line. The starting line. The starting line can be vertical and horizontal. The vertical means straight, as we all know that straight. Then this is horizontal. Before you start any pattern, you have to make a border line. That is the starting line, vertical and horizontal. Those are the places you start your length measurement, your bust, your circumference, whichever one you want to measure. Then we have number 2, place on fold. Place on fold. This is the sign for place on fold. That means at this particular edge, when I'm placing it on a fabric, you have to make sure that your fabric is being folded. The fabric is being folded. That means when you have a fabric like this, you have to fold it this way, like this, before you place your pattern on it. That is the symbol of folding. That's the symbol of place on fold. Then we have the dart. We all know the symbol of dart. This is the middle, then the dart. Then we have notches. When you are creating a notch on your fabric through your pattern, this is the sign for it. Then we have the seam allowance. The seam allowance, you use that to separate the marking lines from the seam allowance. We just use this to indicate on that maybe you are using from here to here, 1.5 from here to here, 2 inches or so. When you are cutting or when you want to sew, you already know that sign is for your seam allowance. Then we have what we call position arrow. This is up. The arrow goes up. That means the cloth should be facing up. When the arrow goes down, that means it should be facing the downside. We use this especially during corset making. When you are making your corset and you are labeling, you label 1, 2, 3, 4, you label A, B, C, D in the corset parts. You will indicate to show if that side should be facing up when you are joining or it should be facing down. You can also use it in other pattern making. Do you understand that? So the last but not the least, we have the cancelled line. When we have initial lines of drafting, that after drafting those initial lines, you will make a new line. So when you make this new line, the former one is not usable again, so you have to cancel the former line. So this sign indicates that it is a cancelled line, as you can see that. So after this, we move into the next phase by showing you the phases of taking measurements. for the basic blouse and the basic skirts. This is the measurement part of taking measurements. I've labeled everything so that you will understand very well. From here, from the shoulder to this natural waistline gives us the half length in which we use for half scale, or we call it half length of a bodice. Then from this shoulder to this length here, you see this LB gives us the length of the blouse. This F here and HL means front half length. That's the short stem I used for it. Then for this front part, from one brass strap to another brass strap, we take measurement of those parts. It is from here to here. You use your tape to measure. You see it. We use this for the off shoulder when taking off shoulder measurement. Then from one nipple point to another nipple point, that is here to here, we call it bust span. We use it in sewing bustier and also for that calculation. We call it bust span, or you call it nipple to nipple measurement. From this shoulder line to this bust point line, you see it, to this nipple line is called bust point, or you call it shoulder to nipple measurement. You take your tape from the shoulder towards this direction to the nipple point. Then from this shoulder here, when you bring it across to under this bust line, you call it under bust. Do you see this here? I wrote under bust here. Then on this natural waist, you can see I've written waistline here. Sometimes you can use a rope or something to tie it here so that you get the measurement. Now let me move it to the back. From this shoulder here, from here to here, you take your measurements across like this. That is your shoulder line. Some people call it back. We call it back. Then from the shoulder line here to this natural waist at the back, that is the back waist length. I call it BWL, back waist length, because our back length is different from our front length. Then for the sleeve, from this shoulder that you measure straight here is the sleeve length. That's the long sleeve. Then from the shoulder to here is the elbow length. Those are the measurements used in sleeve. Then when you take your tape round this arm here with ease, we call it armhole. That's the armhole measurement. Like you have seen it here, armhole measurement. We are through with the measurements of this upper part here, as you can see. So for the skirt part or the trouser, from your natural waist straight down, that's your length. From the natural waist to the widest area of your hip, the widest area of your buttocks, that's where you take measurement of your hip. Do you see? You take measurement of your hip to here, then you drag it down to make sure there's an ease there. I'm only using this as an illustration so that you know where and where to measure. For you to understand, let me carry this up. So from the waist to this place, this is the knee length. When taking measurement for your trouser or pants, you take knee length. Then to this place, that's the ankle. So yours can be from this waist to the long length or to ankle. Then your trouser, is very important to always measure your ankle and your knee so that you understand these things when we start drafting our patterns. So thank you for watching this tutorial video. I'm going to see you in my next class, as I'll be teaching you how to draft your basic bodice pattern. That's the half scale. Bye for now.